Oh, yo, this is the Ancient Texan. I'm going to talk about something that I don't know much about. But you don't have to know much about something for it to bother you. And this kind of bothers me at a gut level. And I'm going to see if I can get my head around some thoughts that apply to not only the subject I'm going to stumble through today, but oh, a change in the world and what people think is their rights that I don't agree with. And I think this is mostly liberal left. I don't think the right actually thinks about it much at all. And a lot of people on the left get cowered into this mindset. So I know that didn't make any sense, that introduction. So I'm going to start off on a subject, and then I'm going to go from the specific to the general and see if I can make sense of it in my own head. There's a new book out called Irreversible Damage. Abigail Schreier. I'm not saying her name right, but I'll use my new video skills and try to post a picture of the book cover in this video. Lots of young girls are deciding they have gender dysphoria. It's a fancy way of saying a lot of young girls, as teenagers, wake up and decide they're a boy in a girl's body. That is something to me. I actually know a guy. Know is a different word. I've talked with and been around him and gone to poetry group with a guy that decided that he's really a woman. He's a woman trapped in a guy's body, and he takes pills. In fact, I've known two guys, so I haven't actually known any women that thought they were men. This is so foreign to my view of life. I kind of take life as, you get good cards and bad cards. And even if I thought I wanted to be a woman, I thought, wow, that'd be cool. Women, first, I really like women and they're beautiful, and who wouldn't want to be a young, beautiful woman? And they have a lot of power in their beauty and the desire that men have give women a lot of power. So, it doesn't seem completely crazy to think about what it would be like. But I would never think in my wildest dreams, and one, I don't have a real strong desire. I'm pretty content with, playing the cards that life gives me, which is my point. I think you get cards that you like, that you have to play with, and you get cards you don't like. That's just life to me. So the idea that you would try to change your biology is a very foreign concept to me. And it's almost against the rules in my way of thinking. And I would predict most of the time it doesn't have a happy ending. Could be wrong. Haven't heard any great statistics one way or another. But those are my biases. admittedly, I'm biased on this subject, and I'm getting it, right out here, right out front. I'm biased, but that's me. That's the truth, and I'm going to speak, you know, what I believe. Gender dysphoria. That seems like a strange name. And what's going on, according to this author Abigail, is a lot of teenage girls are getting into social groups and deciding they're in the wrong body. We'll come back to that in a minute. And so right now, if you go to a doctor and say you have gender dysphoria, you're a woman, a girl, let's say you're an 11-year-old girl, and you go to a doctor and say, I have gender dysphoria. I'm really a boy. The current liberal position is the only one that knows if that's true or not is the 11-year-old girl. I would argue she doesn't even know. An affirmative care policy says you don't need to diagnose if that's true. You have to accept it since she's the only one that knows if it's true. So psychotherapists are bound by law to affirm the gender of the girl's selection. Wow. Okay. Doctors must affirm the teenager's self-diagnosis and assist the teenager to accomplish it. Wow. You don't know the number of times that I've decided that I understood something about my health. And I've even tried to collect data on it and read all the literature and gone in and tried to do a self-diagnosis and get a doctor to go along with that. I'm getting my dog up here on the couch by me. So, and of course, many times I've failed with my self-diagnosis because doctors just don't go along with that self-diagnosis. And they go like like my blood sugar's I'm like pre-diabetic. I'm not quite there yet. I'm still technically passing the test, but I'm right on the cusp of passing this magic number that they decide is the borderline between when you're not diabetic and you're pre-diabetic. As if God drew this magic line in the sand. So, if I decide I want to do a certain treatment method, that's just not going to happen. Now I can refuse to do what they say, but if I want to go off and, I want them to give me mojo juice and I need a prescription for it, probably not going to happen. But in this case, doctors must affirm the teenager's self-diagnosis and assist the teenager to accomplish it. It's called an affirmative care requirement. Well, and if you challenge it, you're going to mess up their mental health and how they feel about themselves. That's kind of the story here. Well, just me thinking that's crazy. Who cares what I think, right? But there's been some doctors, a guy named Ken Zucker, was fired, ran some clinic, some big hospital. It's real easy to find. Just do a search. I'll throw his picture and name into the video feed here. Ken Zucker was fired because his point of view is, let's wait and see. Let's first examine if the parents are doing something that's reinforcing the child's belief and behavior that's maybe unconsciously pushing the child toward that direction. Let's check to see if the child is in a group of people that are advocating that. Let's check to see if the child has any friends, has any activity away from being on the computer all the time in a social group that advocates gender dysphoria. Over the last year, apparently, in Britain, there's been a 4,000% increase in women treated for gender dysphoria since this affirmative action, affirmative care requirement came in. So the argument is, well, they were, in the closet before, and now this has given them permission to come out. But if it was a in the closet thing, Abigail points out, the one that wrote this book, that it would be more than just teenage girls that are on the computer all day in social groups. You would expect there to be an increase in older women, and you'd expect there to be an increase in men. But neither is that true. It's young teenage girls. Her argument is that teenage girls tend to be a little bit, hysterical, and you see this in other behaviors like self-harm, anorexia, bulimia. Those tend to be groups of teenage girls that get together and teach each other. For instance, if you put someone into a rehab center with other girls that are that way, they typically come out worse. And so therapists are not even allowed to challenge that. And a lot of people have been beaten up for disagreeing with this viewpoint. So what happens when they get, declared they have gender dysphoria, declared by the girl herself? Well, usually the first thing is testosterone additions, and starts changing your, amount of hair, your body type, where your fat gets stored, your butt, your boobs. So here's the thing about a girl who thinks she's a boy and she's trapped in a boy's body. Gender, in part, is a social construct, not by the people advocating this policy, obviously. And it's something, according to them, that's immutable at birth. You know which body you belong in. That strikes me as weird, to be quite honest. But they argue that only a girl can know her truth. Gender is a personal choice. And medical professionals are required to acquiesce. People that are pushing this tend to see themselves as saviors. And they advocate for doing what's needed. For instance, if a girl needs surgery to take her boobs off to feel okay, then off go the boobs. Hormones, penis construction, get rid of the, female organs. I assume they get rid of the clit or something. And they build a penis, bunch of operations to get it to function, put nerve endings in there to feel something. Some small chance of being able to get an orgasm. So it's a big physical deal. And girls as young as 11 start this. Now here's something really goofy. This immutable thing that you know since birth, that you're a man or a woman, can be fluid. And it turns out the majority of people, the majority of young girls that decide they're a man later change their mind. And a lot of them decide they're gay, they're lesbian, which is cool with me. Not that it needs to be cool with me. So there's some chance these girls are going to change their mind, yet the affirmative care standard says you assist them in getting what they want or what they believe. That knowing that some of them are going to change their mind, and knowing that we're messing with some serious biology changes when you start giving testosterone. Now, they people that for this affirmative action say it's more than just your feelings at stake here. If someone challenges you, it's your identity. You're challenging someone's identity. Now, I would argue that your identity is made up not only of what you think is true, but what the people around you think is true. And that's just life. People around you impact your identity, and you have to learn to deal with it. You can think you're a great writer and people read your stuff and say it's crap. Or I can think I'm a great podcaster and people tell me it's crap. It's just the way it is. So this lady looked at the teenage girls. Most of them are white, middle to upper class, and they have no victim status. And along comes this thing, has a lot of nice words like your two-spirit. Now, these girls tend to have a dearth of intimate relationship. They're very sheltered. Um, they're not dating. They're with mom all the time. They're on their phone. Even when they're with other girls, they tend to be on their phone. They're tethered to their mom, and their best friend is often their mom. Sex is viewed as its own thing. A lot of them are exposed by going on the internet to some pretty violent porn that's out there, and it can be a pretty scary thing. So Abigail assumes that most gender dysphoria is peer motivated, social media motivated, and mental health is not being achieved by helping these girls and not challenging their belief. And it's certainly their well-being is not served by allowing them to start hormone therapy and things that will cause permanent harm. Your body type and muscle mass and all that kind of stuff gets changed, the amount of hair you have. And a lot of that doesn't reverse once you stop the testosterone. She would claim that this is kind of a narcissist viewpoint, that only your will determines your place in the world. It's kind of similar to a lot of the social constructs. For instance, if you argue against Black Lives Matters, you're going to get a lot of aggressive ideology thrown at you. So this is one of those issues that if you speak out, and if I had any following on YouTube or Anchor, my podcast, I might get a backlash, but I don't have a lot of people caring what I think, so I'm kind of lucky. But I would advocate that real life is a compromise, and you have social pressure pushing you all over the place, and that's part of life. So it doesn't seem unreasonable that I would think you would tell a girl, let's wait and see, and let's see if you feel like this a year from now, 3 years from now. Let's see what you feel like when you get 16. Now, they would argue that some of the stuff you need to get going, because if you don't start the hormone, the testosterone, soon enough, a lot of irreversible changes might happen. You might get an ass that sticks out. The men like that, whatever. So this is the way things are at the moment. I was watching what got me into this was an interview with Jordan Peterson, and you probably already go, "Whoa, he's a Jordan Peterson guy." I do buy 90% of what Jordan Peterson his viewpoints. Not all of them. I have some reservations about religion, for instance, and his viewpoints on that. But he's usually pretty tight logically. So he was actually hesitant to speak about this. And I think that's really scary, because Jordan Peterson's been put through the mill for a lot of his viewpoints. And he's booed, and if I say his name in my UUFN crowd, I see the other person cringe. Oh, and I'm typically willing to discuss most any subject, but there's a lot of subject this day that you can't talk about without being booed out of the stadium by the progressive liberal crowd, the woke people. You do not want to get on the side of the woke, on the bad side of the woke people. This guy Ken, forgot his name, but I mentioned him earlier. Ken Zucker. He was like a prominent psychotherapist. 70 years old, been working in the field forever. He thought he could just get out and openly express his viewpoints, his kind of wait and see and let's go slow, and let's, at least examine that if, the parent's action, are you biasing the kid one way or another, and let's try to get you to a more neutral stance. And he got fired. There's a lot of people who've been canceled. That's what they call them, canceled. The power to cancel. For instance, it's now the law you have to support someone's pronouns, which they decided that's overrules freedom of speech. My daughter sometimes will tell me what she believes and what she thinks happened in her childhood. And if I challenge what she says happens, I'm told that I'm challenging her truth. Wow. And that I'm not allowed to challenge her story because it's her story, even when it conflicts with my story. Now, I generally just let that go, because I kind of have the opinion that if someone doesn't want to know my point of view, okay. If they do want to know my point of view, I'll tell them. On social issues and things like this that are affecting a lot of kids' life, I think it's something that ought to be debated, and there ought to be two schools on something as important as this. And it ought to be perfectly legitimate to challenge something that is as new as this, and that we don't have a long track record on. We don't know what's the future of all these girls. We do know that suicides are up, but whether that has anything to do with this or not, if that's the same group, I don't know. But anyway, I think it's important, and we ought to be discussing both sides of it, and it should be okay to question almost anything and have a debate on it. So this is the Ancient Texan talking to you about something I don't know about, but on the surface seems very disturbing to me. And I'm glad I'm not a parent who has a girl, teenager, that wants to change her sex. And when she gets to be adult, hunky-dory with me. But I would go wait and see, would be my attitude, no matter what someone told me. Anyway, this is the Ancient Texan. Hope you have a good one. Namaste.